KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller in the morning. Dave Petzo joining us now. Mr. Petzo, we continue on another week of financial news. More importantly, we take a look at social media with the government saying that it might be time to take a look at breaking up Google or Amazon or Facebook. Your thoughts?
I think that's not a bad thing to look into. I'm not saying that they necessarily should, although my feeling about Amazon is pretty strong that way, due to the fact that it seems like the classic, if you will, Sherman antitrust action, which is taking money from one set of businesses you have and money losing in another one to drive your competitors out of business. It's very classic and should be and is illegal, I thought. So looking at it, I think makes a lot of sense. And I think Google and Amazon are kind of doing whatever it is they want to do. And that's just not the way the game is played. So I don't think there's anything bad about the government looking into it. I think it's a great move.
Now, wait a minute. You're actually, I thought the government didn't do anything right.
Well, they don't do things well. That is for darn sure. It takes too long and too much money, Kevin. But we do need laws, we do need rules, and I think it's time that they take some of those rules and take a look at it. It will take too long, it will take too much money as they look at it, but that is what the government is there for, in my opinion, is to police the state, if you will.
So you're calling for a police state?
Yeah, I figured as soon as I said that something would come back about that. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, look, I thought you were an unrestricted and unfiltered capitalist. Isn't Amazon and Google just doing what a good capitalist should do?
Absolutely.
Back to the Gilded Age?
They certainly should be continuing to expand their business, and wherever they can, they should be taking names and, kicking tail. That's exactly what they should be doing, and they should be trying to dominate. They should be trying to become a monopoly. Absolutely, that's what business does. But we do have rules and laws, and I think they're very appropriate to not allow companies to completely take over and monopolize an industry.
Well, you could say that about Walmart.
No, Walmart has a lot of options, but Walmart figured out a way to have a giant store and have everything you could possibly need in that store and to cut costs by becoming so large. But it did not say that you couldn't go shop somewhere else. So that's not a monopoly.
Well, but you could say, look, they usually cost cut, and they've wiped out a lot of local businesses.
Oh, they did. I'm not saying that they were positive to local little businesses. They were not. They destroyed them. But in many ways, they did better for the economy because the consumer ended up with a lot more money in their pocket. But again, they did not come out and take money like Amazon does from their services business and take and make the profits there, and then lose money in order to drive out competitors on all their other businesses, and that's what Amazon is doing.
Well, it makes it tough on a company like Albertsons.
It does. Albertsons and every other one, you bet, and especially when they're just continue to expand in every other business, like they buy out Whole Foods, and so now you're right, they are going to be competing and do compete directly against Albertsons.
That would be Amazon, not Walmart.
That would be both.
Okay, but
I was referring to Amazon buying out Whole Foods.
I was referring to Walmart.
Oh, you were? Yes. Well, they are the biggest grocer in the country, yes.
This is kind of like a culture shock here. Dave Petzo is urging big government here.
Yeah. Oh, yes. I'm wanting government to expand.
What's next? Perhaps adopting Bernie Sanders.
I'm going to ask Bernie to be my vice presidential running mate.
Let's talk about maybe somebody should break up this monopoly, the state Republican Party. You've got Brad Little through a contentious competitive primary. Mm-hmm. It looks like he's going to roll. And look, you're having people that are not going to say that, but you've got a candidate that is not really doing anything. Paulette Jordan, very confused, apparently, in my opinion, out of state from published reports, making movies. Again, according to published reports, coming in, just kind of convoluted, haven't really seen her around. Brad Little running all the time. Russ Fulcher running all the time. Lieutenant governor's race might be a little different, but you take a look at where the state party is. How do you feel about them in November? I know you're a nonpartisan guy, but
yeah, I think that the Republican Party is doing very well right now. I mean, people may not have their particular candidate from the primaries. You may not have had your guy or gal in there. But the reality is the Republican Party is solid, it's well-financed, and it's doing well in the state. And so I think that they're going to roll, and I certainly can't put down what they've done. They're certainly doing very, very well, and in a state that continues to attract a lot of people from out of state that may not feel exactly the same way as we do, but the Republican Party is in fact, in my opinion, doing very well.
You think, and you take a look, A.J. Belukoff, businessman, beloved in Boise, had the Democratic nomination, saw him running in Fit One over the weekend.
Yeah.
A guy who's a self-made man, financed everything, got beat in the primary. See, to me, there's got to be a lot of buyer's remorse because A.J., I think, would have been much more competitive than...
I think he would have been very competitive in this one, don't you? He's got a name.
That's what I just said.
You said more competitive. I thought it would have been very.
That's what I did say.
Did you say very much more? Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt your thought.
Are you with us this morning here, Dave Petzo? Okay. All right. Phone numbers. Save us from ourselves here. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. But getting back to A.J. Belukoff.
Yeah.
Here's a guy that has invested a ton of money in the schools and all this, and then boom, just out the door. But here, a guy that's really invested in the Treasure Valley. I was shocked that he lost the primary.
I thought it was stunning. I to somebody that basically statewide nobody knew. I found it incredible. And again, maybe one of those things that we're seeing around the country where the people on the left are running further left. It's like, it's more socialist, much more, hey, let's just go with this, with a whole new idea called socialism. We love it. And it's crazy where you're running up against, if you will, the more moderate Democrats like A.J. Clearly is. I find it amazing, and yet I'm sure you're right. You said it right. Buyer's remorse. I mean, I just can't even imagine people sitting back going, yeah, this is going really well. Paulette's running a phenomenal campaign and gaining momentum. It seems like it's falling apart. Her whole, weren't there 2 or 3 firings in the past couple of weeks?
Actually, they quit on her.
Or quit, yes.
So, you talk to young people quite a bit. They fascinate you, don't they?
They do fascinate me, actually.
Right. You're concerned about the future. So, unlike Kevin Miller, you seek to engage with the young people. I am just a caricature of what they think an adult should be, and I understand my role with young people. But you interact with them. So when you're having a conversation with someone, maybe in their 30s or what have you, and they start talking socialism is a good thing. Mm-hmm. Now, you've come from an America where those commie pinko socialists were our enemies, mm-hmm. and they were sought to destroy us, and yet we have young people, smart, good young people, that are saying socialism is good.
Yeah.
How do you respond to that?
It's under what I think the first thing you say is, come on, Venezuela, how's that going? How did Cuba work out? And I was found for years, though, Kevin, where we had people would literally say on the left, yeah, Cuba's really great. It's like sometimes I understand that people like that you can never have a conversation with because it doesn't make any difference. And there's people on the right that are like that. I totally get that. Most people think that they're rational and have interesting and thoughtful conversations. Most people don't. They just simply are going to only believe. It doesn't matter. Don't show me the facts. I believe what I believe, and I don't want to know. But that's the first thing I would say is, where has it worked? Where does it work? Where are people's human rights, which I thought people on the left were all about?
People say Iceland.
Yeah,
where
Iceland
they pay 60% tax and they have everything paid for.
Iceland is a rock in the middle of the ocean.
I'm just saying. I'm giving you an example. Canada.
And also Iceland, remember, melted down.
Now, remember.
No pun intended, but it melted down.
I'm not advocating socialism here.
I understand.
I'm just saying that these are, when you ask a question, I'm just wondering the interactions you have with these folks. Because you have people that, remember, Dave Petzo, and I'm sure you weren't like this, but when I was younger, I thought I knew everything.
I was exactly like that. Young people are. I mean, you just have to live a while before you understand I don't know very much.
Right, but when you deal, they're so passionate about it.
They are very passionate.
They buy into Bernie Sanders, and a lot of people vilify the great corporations that you love.
Yeah, they do. And I always say in regards to that, if they really want to have a discussion about it, I would say, look, who do you think creates the drugs that keep grandma and your grandparents alive? Who do you think created that beautiful phone in your pocket? Was that just a government
Lenin.
mandate?
Lenin.
Lenin did. That's right. And where in the world is the great art and architecture and all of the great new things created? In America, which has, 10% of the population of the world? Less than that? It's insane. We make everything. It's the bastion of growth, of innovation, of creation, even of art. And so that's why I think of beautiful things, right? So that's why I think of America as clearly there's something different here. And to me, it's that capitalist edge that we have, creative destruction. We don't try to protect industries. We shouldn't be trying to protect industries that are going out of business.
Let's go to Pete, Mountain Home on KIDO Talk Radio with our great friend Dave Petzo. Hello, Pete.
Hey, Kevin and Dave. Two things. One, I think the reason a lot of the young people think socialism is great is they're mostly living on their parents' money, and so socialism works for them. They're spending somebody else's money.
That's a good point. They've been taught that it works really well.
Yeah, for them.
Right.
And they don't have to earn the money, so it's great.
The whole
and then
idea.
I'd like to comment on PJ's remark about her being the only real American in the race for governor.
Sure. Go ahead.
And her tribe, because they've been here thousands of years. Well, first of all, the Nez Perce were not Americans. They were a tribe before Europeans arrived here. There was no America. You were a member of a tribe, and the other tribes were not part of your tribe. They were other peoples. And I would also like to add, and this is going to be politically incorrect, but the Nez Perce tribe, if I recall correctly, fought a war with Americans, and they lost.
Everybody that fights a war with Americans lose.
Right, but they for her to claim that they've been Americans for thousands of years,
yeah.
They were members of the Nez Perce tribe.
It's, again, a sign of arrogance and inexperience, and a young lady that is not being guided by anybody that knows what they're doing with politics.
Oh, absolutely. And somebody who has apparently been taught through school just absolute myths, I guess. I don't know, falsehoods.
Well, I'm sure she tells that to her friends when she's living in the North End, because I don't know where she lives. She's elected in the North Country, but she's got an apartment in the North End, according to published reports. But as I said, Brad Little's probably going to get 70% of the vote, and that's the bottom line.
Well, let's hope he gets at least 80, but
that would be great. It'll be a wipeout for the Dems. Goodbye, libs.
The other thing that I have that I really like, it's a campaign bumper sticker for Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez in 2020, and it says, "Make America Venezuela." And that's what they're running on. They want America to be Venezuela.
Pete, God bless. Take care.
You too.
Doug in Mountain Home joins us now with Dave Petzo and Kevin Miller. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning. How are you guys? Oh, I don't get my news but from you guys. I don't have a TV, ain't had a TV in years. I listen to conservative talk radio. I don't look at the stinking newspapers. I don't go to other channels because I don't want to hear a lie, because I've listened to it long enough. What I would like to know, Kevin, just this morning, when is the confirmation hearings on Kavanaugh?
They've been delayed indefinitely.
Are you kidding me? When did they do that?
Dave, when did they do that?
They're going to last week. Yeah.
They're going to have the hearings Wednesday or Thursday with Dr. Ford, and now you have a new woman coming out saying,
I
she
heard
was
that
groped.
freaking junk crap this morning.
Yeah.
So, and as far as the young people go, I think they're rude, they're stupid. I'd like to beat their asses, and that's what they need. They're lazy. They won't work. All they want to do is, just like the man said, they want money from their folks. They're absolutely rude. I mean, the rudest generation I think I've ever been around. They got a foul freaking mouth, which a lot of people probably think I do, but I'm 62, so I guess I've earned it. I watched all this crap coming down. They are lazy. Absolutely lazy. It's no wonder they want to be socialists. They want everything gave to them, period. And it's been indoctrinated into them for since the 60s, since freaking Jane Fonda and all of these liberal pukes. It's just sickening watching this. You can't get anybody, any of them, to work. Period. Literally, they're just absolutely filthy, stinking lazy. So that's what I got to say this morning. Have a good day, gentlemen. Keep up the good work.
Thank you for listening, Doug. You're listening to Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. All right, Dave Petzo says, hey, Kevin Miller, we're going to talk money, or is this crossfire? He's right. So I've been saving this one for you.
Okay.
Is this the sign of the apocalypse that Nike now is calling Colin Kaepernick the $6 billion man because Nike stock and Nike sales have ballooned because they've embraced the social justice warrior, Colin Kaepernick?
You know, I have to believe that this is, I know it's weird, but we go through weird periods. The 1960, in my lifetime, I can think of multiple weird periods where people thought this is the apocalypse, so to speak, right? And obviously history is laden with it. I just have a hard time believing that this isn't just a blip where we are going to not forever be identity politics. It's become so absurd and so weird that because I am a woman, because I am a black woman or a Hispanic guy, this is the way I vote and this is who I am. And you put me in a nice little box, and because you can, this is who I am. And I don't think people want to be that. I don't believe people want to be that. I don't want to be put in a box. I'm a white guy. Does that make me a certain thing? I don't think it does. It makes me a complicated individual, just like a woman or anybody else. And we all have different feelings, but we have this weird world where I'm supposed to be identified by what color skin and what gender I am, or what gender I think I'm supposed to be. I think it's all going to change, Kevin. I really do. I don't think it's the apocalypse. And Nike having a bump in sales, that happens when people do things. In the long run, they also did something else. They turned a simple tennis shoe and, an athletic gear into a political statement that half the country doesn't like. I don't like it either. Do I want to buy Nike anything? Not actually. I'm not into boycotting, but they kind of irritated me when they did that. And it wasn't, I never watched football before, Kevin. I didn't stop watching football. I didn't watch it before, but it does irritate me that it's a political statement. It's football.
Sure, but a political statement, and again, I'm not happy with it, appears to be working for Nike right now. Maybe
temporary.
With all due respect to you and to me, maybe we're the ones out of touch, because that's what the media says, and I know you're a big fan of the media.
Yeah, I love the media, and I love what they say, and they all like to be right. We all like to be right. But the reality is this is a short-term thing. It's a very short-term. Why would I say that this is a long-term or $6 billion guy? I'm not sure that it is. I really am not. We'll see how it plays out. But you get a bump because people rush to the store to buy a few tennis shoes doesn't mean that they're not, if you will, stealing from the future the way we did with, remember the automobile thing under Obama? We had the junk, clunkers for cash or something like that.
Cash for clunkers.
Cash for clunkers. And all that did was make sure we had no sales 6 months out for automobiles. And we did. It worked. We had no sales 6 months out. They all pushed forward. I don't know if that's what it means, but people aren't going to buy a lot of extra tennis shoes.
More with Dave Petzo in a minute. First, traffic and weather together.
Jim Duty.
So speaking of football, the NFL, more and more people are not going to their games. Never mind the ratings being low. They're having a problem filling stadiums.
See, to me, that's amazing. I mean, I recognize that they charge a lot, that it's a very expensive experience. But that is something that you can't get on TV. Turn off TV. It's not the same thing as going to a game and feeling the energy in the stands. It's a different experience. So that just tells me it is, to your point, much worse than you would have thought. It is much worse than the if you will, the TV ratings are showing.
Well, and then you have people getting political. I'm watching this show on on HBO last night with The Rock, and one of the characters starts yelling profanities about Donald Trump. And we players need to be able to speak, and that would be like politicizing the workplace.
Right. It is. And it's crazy. And I don't know why the NFL is allowing this to happen, because
they can't control it.
Why not? It is there. Are they not? We're talking about $1 billion industry, billions of dollars industry. Teams sell for $1 billion, and they can't get a handle on what their employees are saying and doing and putting out there. It is hurting them. You and I talked about this before, but Major League Baseball, when they just walked out and had a strike for 100+ days and ruined, I believe it was like 82 or 84 season, somewhere in there, early 80s, they ruined an entire season. They never came back. It was America's game, was baseball, and it never came back. And I just don't know that football is going to come back in the way it did. I'm not saying they're going bankrupt, that nobody will show up, but and nobody goes to baseball games. They do, but it's not the game that it was the day before the strike. And I'm wondering if this isn't that football won't become not the same thing the day after the day they started to kneel.
Dave Petzo, we appreciate you. The Petzo Center, Petzo Financial, on Facebook and Twitter, and Saturdays 8 to 10 on KIDO Talk Radio. Dave, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. We sure appreciate you and you being here, a day in and day out. I mean that with all my heart.
Well, I appreciate you keeping me on track.
Beacon.
A beacon.
A beacon to this valley.
A broken beacon.
Well, we all get broken sometimes. but I'll tell you what, you bend, but you don't really break. You're like that old, what is that? Remember that clown? You go down the floor and come back. That's you. You take the shots and you just come right back.
I'm with you, but they have another thing called Weebles. Weebles wobble,
but they don't fall down.
Exactly. Thank you, Dave.
Way to go, Weeble.
Yeah. My parents are so proud. I'm a Weeble. Good morning, Doug.
Good morning, Kevin.
Always great to hear from our great friend Dave Petzo, the Petzo Center, Petzo Financial. We sure appreciate Dave stopping by every Monday. But he's no Rachel Sutherland, joining us now from Fox News Radio on Capitol Hill. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Kevin. How are you?
Not bad. Boy, going to be a pretty boring week for you, just like it was a boring weekend.
Another humdrum week here in D.C., I'll tell you. Yeah, a lot of people who may have taken Sunday just to chill out and have a barbecue or watch football are awaking to the news that there's another allegation, this time in the New York Post, in which a woman by the name of Deborah Ramirez claims that she had an encounter with Kavanaugh while she was at Yale at a drinking party in which he exposed himself. He is categorically denying that, saying that that did not happen, that this is part of a smear effort. The White House saying they completely back Judge Kavanaugh. And meanwhile, the top Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Dianne Feinstein, is calling it for a delay of Thursday's planned hearing with Christine Blasey Ford, because she was supposed to come and testify and tell her allegation. As far as I know, that's still on, but it's still early here in D.C. It's just Monday morning, and so much can happen. It was just 1 week ago today that we were talking about the explosive nature of Ford's allegations. That had dropped on a Sunday as well. So we've come a long way in 1 week. It's hard to predict how this will play out in this coming week.
Well, and let's also the bombshell dropped by the New York Times about the the number 2 at the Justice Department, the Assistant Attorney General Rosenstein.
Oh yeah, the New York Times article. That was one of those that's kind of bizarre because I was reading through it, trying to figure out, because it's unnamed sources. Not that it's not okay to ever do that. Unnamed sources saying that he had just discussed maybe wearing a wire, and I was thinking, with whom, did he discuss this? He denies that he ever did that, but I don't know if his days are numbered. It's just a fast-moving situation as usual in D.C., but I think for the second week in a row, the Kavanaugh headlines are really going to suck the air out of the room. We haven't seen a story really grab hold like this and stick for quite some time.
Makes you go back to the genteel days of Clarence Thomas and Anita Hill.
When things seem so much easier.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that was quite a while ago. And there are a lot of comparisons because you definitely have a situation where there's an allegation, and some are saying, well, in the Anita Hill situation, they were at least willing to reopen the FBI probe and that kind of thing. So this is maybe bound to get uglier before it gets any better, and to make any predictions would be kind of tough. But just buckle in for another really fast-moving week.
Politically, what's at stake for both parties if this goes off on Wednesday or Thursday?
A lot. I really think a lot. Maybe more in some respects for Republicans than Democrats, because they are now, with the panel of Republicans on the Judiciary Committee, These are all white men. The optics of this is going to be tough. When Blasey Ford comes to testify, she has said that she doesn't want an outside lawyer asking the question, so it's going to be a woman confronting these men on the Judiciary Committee. I think that there could be running a risk, if I put my analyst hat on, running a risk of appearing tone deaf. When you have hashtags on Twitter going around, last year it was Me Too, now this new one has started, why I didn't report, there is a groundswell of women who have felt like they weren't being heard. Republicans need to walk a fine line between not capitulating to unfounded allegations, but not being tone deaf to women, or they risk a lot. The midterms are 6 weeks away. So there's a lot at stake, really, for both parties, and this could backfire badly on Democrats as well. So it cuts both ways. But there is a growing feeling among some women of not being heard. So I don't envy any of the people on this panel. It's going to be a tough job if the hearing even happens.
Look, I don't envy you having to break down the report. You balanced the line very good on that one.
Oh, well, thanks, Kevin. It's not an easy story to cover.
Yeah.
I think in this case, it's one of those times when you really more than ever have to stick to the facts. And there are plenty of, well, at least the facts as we know them. There's plenty out there to talk about.
Rachel, we appreciate you. You have a great Monday, ma'am.
Thanks.
Our great friend, Rachel Sutherland.
I'd say, and this is not in my mind, disqualifying, but it is interesting as we learn more about Judge Kavanaugh's character. I was in college a few years before that, and there were groups of people that sort of followed different practices, and I'm not saying I was in the Boy Scouts, but there were groups on these campuses that were into heavy drinking, were into heavy partying, and in some cases, I'm not saying in Kavanaugh's case, were into doing things with women that I think we would regard as inappropriate by any standard today. And I think some of that has come fairly clearly out, that he was part of that part of the Yale campus.
Can we lean on that evidentiary standard notion there for a minute? As you said, there's, beyond a reasonable doubt is an inappropriate standard for something like this. This isn't a courtroom. This is public opinion. And those who have said that the burden is on this justice to prove himself a competent justice are correct. But we're not talking about how you judge cases here, your legal philosophy. We're talking about potentially criminal allegations. And even if we use a preponderance evidence standard, which is a pretty low standard, we don't meet that threshold. We don't have enough people who are corroborating this story. All the named witnesses in the Ramirez story say that this did not happen. All the named witnesses in the Ford story cannot corroborate that story. I don't know.
So why are we destroying a perfectly good jurist? There's no corroboration. There's no one backing up these stories. And our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims, the real victims. But for the sake of argument, who's to say people just didn't say, well, he's got to go down? Who can we come up with that, again, Ramirez is the newest story from Rowan Farrell in the New Yorker. He believes her. Why would anybody do this? Well, there's a lot at stake with the Supreme Court, number one. Number two, as we first brought you, I saw the Idaho Statesman picked it up. I'm sure everybody else will. I do want to thank our caller, Lori, for bringing this up. You have the Idaho Coalition of Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. You have 3 15-year-old girls saying they believe Ford. That's a tough one. We talked about it here. I guess at 15 you know everything, and you don't need to hear two sides of the story. I think it's a mistake by the Idaho Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence to be involved in this story and to put that up on their Facebook site and to urge people to sign that petition. For the sake of argument, no, not for the sake of argument. I'm with the president. I'm with Kavanaugh. I believe him. What if this is just a giant smear job? Remember Judge Roy Moore? He was going to be put away for prison for all the things that he did. Whatever happened to that? Oh, he's suing the people that attacked him. Something to think about. I'd love to hear from you next. Liberty Linda joins us now. Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning.
Good morning, our wonderful Kevin. You know, I think that Hank was born with an encyclopedia in his hands. First of all.
Something like that.
Yeah, I think so. Anyway, you know, with President Trump, when he comes here, he will endorse, Brad Little and Russ Polcher, I believe. I mean, isn't that what he's doing, going from state to state and endorsing the Republicans? So I think he will endorse him when he comes here. So I'm not too worried about a race here in Idaho.
Well, that's our challenge. The races are so non-competitive. The president has to go to states that, where it's looking tough, like Texas or Vegas here. Look, you've got a Democratic candidate that is lost. I don't know who is running against Russ Fulcher. I don't know. They might. The Democrats in this state should save us all the time and effort. Just forfeit, and we could move on to the getting ready for the legislative season.
Well, she isn't even running against him, I don't think, in our state here. Not much is going on there. But anyway, with Brett Kavanaugh, is it even a crime that they're charging him with? I mean, what she said was not a nice thing to happen at a party. Is it a crime? The Democrats are treating it as full rape. If you tuned into the television, you would think, okay, this is full rape. Now she's not really saying that's what happened back then. So, I mean, I'm asking, is it a crime, actually, what she said happened? I believe the word she said was groping.
Groping, touching, who really knows?
I know, like we've talked before, 36 years ago at a party. Anyway, that's my whole question. Because if anybody tuning into the television would think it was full rape, because they're not really saying that. And anyone with their eyes open can see what's going on in our government, that it's just a ploy. They're just trying to push back so he will not get on our Supreme Court. And it just, all of us watching it can't believe it's really happening in our country. I think that was the main point. How can this be going on? He's a good man. I mean, he knows the law so well. It's proof in the cases he's already fought for. He will be a wonderful Supreme Court judge. And let's get on with it. That's all I can say. I don't think she has anything to say. They're trying to put together what she's going to say, and I don't think there's much there.
What do you make of the new one?
Unbelievable. I mean, of course, I think that probably they dug someone else out that would say something against, because they know that the first one is falling apart. So that's what I think. They had to find someone else that would say something bad about him. Anybody in this whole earth, someone can come up and say something bad about him. And the thing is, we know that he's a good person. He has a lovely, lovely family. And how can they do this to a man with two beautiful daughters? It just hurts us in our hearts to see this going on in our wonderful country that we love so much. And quite frankly, I'll just say that I wish it would stop, and I wish it would just be put onto our Supreme Court, and all of this would go away. That's what I hope happens.
Liberty Linda, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. We always love tuning in and listening to you every morning.
Well, I appreciate that, dearie. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Let's go to Steve in Mountain Home. Good morning, sir.
Hey, Kevin, first-time caller. I really appreciate you and all the entertainment you and your listeners provide in the morning.
Thank
you. I
you.
was wondering what you thought with McConnell being such an amazing leader, the chances of nominating and confirming somebody other than Kavanaugh if need be prior to the midterm elections.
We got our friend Greg Pruitt of the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance saying Kavanaugh should go and put in Mike Lee.
How about somebody by the name of Merrick Garland? I mean, the only person, the only strike against him was that he wasn't a serial rapist. He was nominated by a black Democratic president. Just wondering what your thoughts
were. He's a liberal. Oh, wow. Let's respond to Steve in a minute. I think he's from the North End and not Mountain Home. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
According to a report by the New Yorker magazine, Deborah Ramirez, a former classmate of Kavanaugh's, claims he exposed himself to her at a party. She's asking the FBI to investigate the alleged incident, saying it left her embarrassed, ashamed, and humiliated. In response, Judge Kavanaugh released this statement. This is a smear, plain and simple. I look forward to testifying on Thursday about the truth and defending my good name and the reputation for character and integrity I have spent a lifetime building against these last-minute allegations. And the White House says they stand behind the Supreme Court nominee. Mike Cantor, Fox News.
Thank you, Mike. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. So I'm saying this with a straight face. This Ramirez young lady believes that Judge Kavanaugh exposed himself to her, and she wants the FBI to investigate the alleged exposure. Paula Jones, Juanita Broderick, we could go on and on. Where was the Me Too movement then? It's a smear. Thank goodness we have a strong president that is willing to stand with Judge Kavanaugh. I'm standing with Judge Kavanaugh. I believe him. And the Democrats will seek to go to any level to take him down. You know, we had a young man by the name of Steve. He said he's from Mountain Home calling in. I think he's probably calling from San Francisco or something. Callers like that is what I used to get in Pittsburgh, where it was Libs versus Kevin Miller every day. That's a sign that this show continues to grow because the Libs start fearing us. And unfortunately, Steve made it very easy on me because he just hung up. I didn't hang up on him. He should have engaged, but that's really what those cowards do. They do the drive-by calls, and they, Merrick Garland was a liberal. He's not getting on the Supreme Court. But because Merrick Garland, the lib, didn't get a hearing, anything goes to take down Kavanaugh. Right? Let this be a lesson to Donald Trump. Next time, get your most conservative person. It doesn't matter. You're going to be called every name in the book, anti-liberal, anti-this, anti-that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So you might as well get the most qualified conservative person because they're coming for you. The Republicans on Capitol Hill, look, it doesn't matter. You're men. Most of you are white. So you're going to be called every name in the book. I don't really understand the optics. I don't understand when being a man is bad. Right? At 580-5436, 580-KIDO. That's the issue. Right? That's the big issue. But to sit there and call somebody a serial rapist, and if you heard Steve's call, we'll get to that in a minute. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Right. To call Judge Kavanaugh a serial rapist, and again, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I don't even think that guy's name is Steve. What type of person does that? Does this person really believe it? So we have one person that says that he allegedly exposed himself to her when he was in college, so that was at least 30-some years ago. And then we have Dr. Ford, who she will only testify if every favorable condition is met by the Senate because she has the high ground. Does all of this make sense to you in the Me Too movement? Is this the same thing as Leslie Moonves, Harvey Weinstein, Bill Clinton? You tell me. Lars Larson next. I can't wait to hear what you have to say and Lars has to say. Remember, when you have to say it, we're listening. 107.5 FM, 580 AM with Kevin Miller. Good morning.